Hi, I'm Brad Avery, reporter with BevNET. I'm here with Jeff Klineman, editor-in-chief of BevNET and NOSH, and we're at Natural Products Expo West 2022 in Anaheim, California. We've just wrapped the second day of the show. And Jeff, I understand that you heard some breaking news on the show floor.
Yeah, I got a little breaking news right now. Turns out that an investor with Kitu Super Coffee with a really strong track record in CPG, Tyler Ricks, is going to be joining the company as president. Tyler is a longtime PepsiCo executive. He's been an investor with Continental Grain, their investment fund, and he's going to be joining at a time when the company's really looking toward a path to strategic acquisition. They recently brought on a head of a chief customer officer from Anheuser-Busch, who's been an investor in the brand as well. And it's just this professionalizing that tends to take place as companies try and grow and become more appealing to strategics. They start to get all the pieces in place.
It's worth remembering they have that master distribution agreement with Anheuser-Busch as well.
Absolutely. So the question is, how do you motivate bud distributors to work with a product type that they may not be particularly familiar with? And that's why you bring in that chief customer officer. And there are just some things that the founding brothers are willing to cede in terms of experience. And I think that that's one of the things that we're seeing here. So, Brad, what was your main headline from the show today?
Well, one thing I've seen a lot of is more extensions into the better for you and functional soda space. Obviously, Olipop, Poppy, those brands have been leading the way for this new development of CSD that focuses on gut health. But now we're seeing a lot of brands extend into the space with different types of functionalities, including more gut health, but also immunity. One of the most interesting ones, I think, was Vive Organic, the juice shot maker, released a 12-ounce canned immunity drink that is showing that even a juice shot brand feels they have an opportunity to play here. We've obviously seen brands like Hum Kombucha and others break into the space. Rebel was another one with a pop launch last year, and now seeing even smaller and mid-sized brands. Teonic released a pop line that is veering away from gut health with functions like immunity and chill, but we're also seeing more gut health plays as well. Jeff, are there any that you've seen that jumped out to you?
Well, I tried the Vive soda, and I thought it was pretty interesting because it puts the brand in a little bit more of a high-turn environment. Now, they're not sure yet whether they expect the shots to drive the soda sales or the soda sales to drive the shots. It's really interesting to see that kind of new merchandising play in a brand that's really sat in the front of the cooler in a really small rack, now trying to move into one of the bigger slots.
Well, something else that I think you've seen a lot at the show, I believe, is mushroom plays, and I'd be curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, so one of the big functional plays that's out there, and it's actually grown in the D2C channel a lot, is the functional mushrooms, the chagas, the lion's manes, and there's a general health and wellness component to them that's emphasized. Clarity, anti-inflammatory, sort of just better living through mushrooms. And one of the things that I think is interesting and that I'm hearing from a few of the suppliers and a few of the brands is there's not a standard dose, there's not a standard extraction method, there's not a standard extraction medium. Sometimes you have powders, sometimes you have liquid extracts, and so there's a question of whether they're going to run into the same consumer confusion, same buyer confusion that the CBD category ran into. And I'm hoping that we can look at it a little more deeply in print in the weeks to come. You know, I was stopping by a brand like Odyssey, which is a mushroom-infused energy drink and coffee brand, And then you're seeing mushroom extracts and everything from like a granola, like forage, to the more traditional companies like Four Sigmatic, which really pioneered the space. And while, again, if you're playing within this channel, you've got really knowledgeable consumers, you want to know what it's going to do, and you want to know how much it's going to cost to have it do what it's supposed to do. So, Brad, we're starting to run a little long here. Our producers are getting tired. What was one more takeaway for you?
You know, if there's two brands I keep seeing in everyone's hands at the show, it's Path and Liquid Death. But I think it speaks to the broader trend in the water space to move towards aluminum sustainable packaging. And, you know, I'm seeing a lot of brands like Rain, Heart Water, getting into this space. And even other bigger companies like Brita are making a jump into RTD through aluminum packaging, whether it be the bottles or cans. And I keep hearing from these companies about how important it is to have that sustainability play. So I think there is a question, though, is this going to put more pressure on the traditional plastic bottled water brands? Or are these brands going to continue building in natural channel or specialty accounts? I think that's one thing that will be interesting to see in the coming months.
Yeah, well, if the consumer is there or not, I think is the big question. But there's certainly a lot of money going into these kinds of plays. Brad, you talked about takeaway being sustainability, and I think in terms of global health, there's one other takeaway that I think needs to be addressed here. You know, everyone has been very happy to be back together at Expo West, and there's a real sort of party atmosphere here, but there's also some elements of what's going on in the outside world creeping in. And while sustainability is one of them, the issues over resources that are accompanied by global supply chain issues are certainly a problem for a lot of the companies here. You know, you hear about things like trucking costs going up threefold to get a brand across the country. At the same time, there are external forces that are causing these things to happen. There's the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and we heard about that yesterday with a big donation coming from New Hope to an organization founded by Chef Jose Andres to bring meals to some of the folks who are suffering there. The other thing is, I was speaking with the founder of OmniFoods today, and in general, there's this casual attitude of, how are you doing? Now, this is a company that was started to bring plant-based meat to Asia, and they were using Hong Kong as a jumping off point, and a store that this man owns in Hong Kong as the initial jumping off point. And his year has been pretty horrible. Hong Kong is shut down, both politically and from a pandemic standpoint. And there are these things that we hear about, that we think about in a business sense, and in some sense they have a more global cause. So just something to keep in mind as we head into our next day at Expo West, and we'll keep bringing you news, developments, and trends over the coming days.